This is the OTP, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau is for those who make plans for everything except themselves. We make it easy and affordable for Tennesseans who don't have a group or employer plan. Visit fbhp.com to learn more. I'm Amy Wells. Thank you for joining us for the OTP from Indianapolis. That's right. The 2025 NFL Scouting Combine has begun, and we are so happy to be here. Rep Brian is here, Coach Mack is here, Ramon Foster is here, and we've got tons of coverage all week long. And to start, we have Titans head coach Brian Callahan. Coach Callahan, so great to have you here on the OTP from sunny Indianapolis. How are you doing this morning?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking.
We're glad to have you here, but we've got to start out by asking about your process and how you're approaching the combine, the evaluation process, all of that a little bit differently in year two from your rookie season.
Yeah, there's just a little bit more clarity on how it all works and how it's all going to fit together. All the things that come up for a head coach over the course of an offseason, you sort of been through once already. So there's a comfort level in how it operates, and then there's an excitement for what's to come. You know, I'm excited about the process we're in right now and chance to improve the football team.
Offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator consistent this year. Nick Holtz, Denard Wilson still part of the team. How beneficial is that consistency as you begin the evaluation process, knowing what they like, what they don't like, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's huge. Anytime that you can have continuity on your staff and with the people you're working with, it allows you to keep building on the things that you started. And, we got a lot of work to do, and having the same people and the same processes in two phases of the game are really helpful. And I'll say this, one of the things that you learn the first year and going through it is you really get a better feel for your football team. You know, this time last year, I hadn't met hardly any of the players. Your first experience with most of them is in the offseason program, and then you kind of go through it together through the course of the season. And at this point right now, I feel so much better about knowing what our team is and where we have to go and the things that we need to get better.
You had a lot of production from young players in 2024. Is that coloring the way that you're evaluating talent right now, either knowing that you have a lot of young guys on your team who have a lot of ceiling going forward, or that you need to find more young guys because there's a real chance they're going to be contributing in 25 and beyond?
Yeah, I think it's both. You know, we had some young players play pretty significant roles, and that's exciting. Anytime you have young guys developing and playing well and getting better over the course of the season, that's a good thing. That's what you want. And we're going to have to add more. And that's the way that the league works. And your young players are really your lifeblood of your team. And the more of those guys that develop and play at a high level, the better off we're going to be. And again, we're going to add another rookie class and another class of free agency. And that's what we're hoping for is the young players continue to ascend and be able to play significant roles for us.
Brian, I want to go back to the coaching staff in this. You were able to bring in John Fossil in that third phase. Got to be exciting, one of the best in the business to do it, and to take that third phase for the Titans in a place it hadn't been in before.
Yeah, that was the exciting part about having Bones, which is, as he's affectionately known out there around the league, is he doesn't come available very often, and it just so happened that the way that it worked with the situation in Dallas and his availability, and we try to take advantage of that opportunity. And really, really excited about adding him to the staff, and him and Renee Stewart, both of those guys, they've worked together for a while now, and really excited about that phase. And his reputation precedes him. He's obviously very well regarded, but I think what he brings different than a lot of coaches is his ability to affect the entire team, and his energy and his presentation. Those things are well known in league circles and how he teaches and coaches. So really, really excited to have him, and he's a huge help for me too.
And this time a year ago, you had just hired your staff. You mentioned, you hadn't met most of the players. Now you've got your footing. You've been around the block for one lap around the sun in this. You talked in your pressers at the end of the year about the nervous system of players. I know that started at the Senior Bowl, but what does someone like yourself, the head coach, get out of this week in discovering that nervous system about those players?
That's a huge part of this process right now is we all have the tape. We've evaluated tape where that process has been ongoing. Our area scouts are evaluating the tape. Our scouting staff has been in there for whatever it is, almost 3 weeks watching tape, trying to get ready for the combine. That part is a huge part of the process, right? Just evaluating the tape. But then there's another really significant part of it, which really starts now, is finding out about the person. What makes them tick. How do they view the game of football? how do they fit for our team? Because sometimes there's fits for our team that might not be a fit for somebody else and vice versa. And that's what this next stretch of weeks is between now and the draft is all those in-person touch points, the 30 visits, the combine, the pro days, the private workouts, all those things are now more focused on finding out more about who they are as a person and what makes them tick. And that part, I think, is also a really significant part of the evaluation process.
So speaking of that, that's where I was headed is when you get those guys, specifically the quarterbacks in the room too, let's go top 5 guys. How do you engage with them to figure out what works for you and your system, and also for Denard on his side of the ball too?
Yep.
Do you like to see a reaction on a question that you know probably doesn't have an answer?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
That's all part of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're trying to get a gauge for, you know, what buttons can you push, what do they respond to, how do they react under pressure, whether it's real pressure or not.
Yeah.
You try to get some semblance of that, and not every interview is like that. But you try to have enough things where you can try to peel back the layers a bit, where, you know, we all know you can walk into a 20-minute interview and be pretty well prepared and not give too much one way or the other. And so our job is to try to see if we can't find a way around one of those trained questions, you know, and to see what the reactions are and how they can operate.
Wait a minute. In a meeting room doing these interviews, are you good cop or bad cop?
I'm generally more of the observing. And
You're the observing cop?
And I interject when necessary. I tell you, our assistant coaches, even as we had a bunch of them last night, and we do a lot of film work in these meetings, because that's where you get the most unscripted answers, where you have them talk about their tape and good and bad plays. And there's always funny when you throw up a bad play on there and you ask a guy, what are you doing here? And then they just kind of put their head down, just like you did right there.
No, that's the reason I asked that, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain to people the tape is the tape as it
Yeah.
pertains to what you guys know. The ability to get a reaction and to see how a player reacts is more important, I feel like, than saying, break down what you did on this play.
Yeah.
Because when I got done, this is what I've been telling people. The coaches told me, and when I was like, I'm done, it's like, no, it was when I was going to my last contract. I had Coach Tomlin tell me, we knew from the combine if we ever put something in front of you that you would knock it out. And I was like, how did you know this? Like, the questions we asked you at the combine.
Yeah.
You guys are, yes, Amy, they are sick inside of that room, okay?
It is. That's all part of it.
It's a part of
Yeah.
it.
And I think I give a lot of credit to our assistant coaches, and we still got a lot of interviews to go, but they do a great job of putting the tape together of, you know, finding things where you can dig, you know, why did you make this mistake? What is this? What kind of effort is this here? And you get a feel for how they answer those questions, what their mindset is and how they view their tape. And then you get some good ones in there too. You just talk, and then you have them talk technique and scheme, and it's just an easy way to really just jump right into it, because it's hard to bluff the tape, right? You can't lie about what's happening on the tape. So you put guys in some spot, you put them on the spot and see how they respond. So our assistant coaches so far have done a great job putting those tapes together and driving that football part of it. And I'm looking forward to the rest of them. They're fun.
How is evaluating quarterbacks different from evaluating every other position on the field?
Well, just because it's such an important position, you know, there's so many more things that go into that position other than just being able to throw a football. You know, a lot of guys over the years look good throwing a football when they're in shorts. You know, it's just, I thought I could throw a football in shorts pretty good too sometimes. You know, it's just, there's just so much more of the position and how you play it. And it's really, really hard to evaluate. You know, it's hard to know those things. That's why you see the varying degrees of success in drafting quarterbacks over the years, is that it's not an exact science, and it's challenging to get all the things you need to know prior to selection. And then you find out even more when you get to the NFL. There's just so many things that you have to look at that's just different than any other position. You know, there's certain things in other positions you go, yep, I know this guy can rush the passer. He's going to be able to do that at the same level he did in college as he is in the NFL. There's just so much more to the quarterback position, I think, that you have to uncover in the process. And that's what makes it really challenging because of how much is on those guys' plate and what they have to do for your football team.
Brian, this is the fun part for you, though, because you're an offensive coach and the quarterbacks and people that you've dealt with, this is your forte. This is the fun part, right?
Oh, I love it. I've always loved the evaluation process for quarterbacks. when I was a kid, probably when I was in like middle school, high school, I would go with my dad at this time of year, and we'd go watch every quarterback. So I've been watching draft classes of quarterbacks for a really long time, and I just enjoyed it because I was just trying to learn how to be a better quarterback myself. Like, how do these guys throw? What do they do? And so I've watched a lot of quarterbacks over the years, and that certainly doesn't make me any more qualified than anybody else to look at it because, again, it's not an exact science.
Yeah.
But I do very much enjoy this part. I do enjoy watching quarterbacks. I'm a fan of quarterback play. I like seeing what these guys bring to the table, both in their skill set and their mentality. It's fun. I enjoy the evaluation process.
I'm going to follow up, and I'm going to steal a little bit of Ramon's thunder because he's the offensive lineman here. But you mentioned one of the first things you mentioned in your closing press conference when the season was done is you have to find a right tackle. Please tell me there's some gentlemen here that can help the Titans and you with that.
Yeah, there's some good players in this draft. I think you're going to find that it's going to be a different draft in terms of like the top end talent. It seems that there's a handful of guys I think that'll go in the offensive line, but I think there's some meat in the middle, if you will, where there's some really chances to get some good players in those middle rounds and guys that can play. And, there's also the free agency component as well that kind of works in conjunction with that. You're always aware of both where the strength of both classes are and how do you best fill those needs. So, we're hard at work at trying to improve both fronts. We still need work on both sides, and we need to add good players on both sides of the front. And you can see from the Super Bowl that the front matters, and you have to have good players there, and we're well down that path.
See, finally, people will start listening to offensive linemen instead of sending us to the furthest part of the field to practice where nobody can hear us get punished, Coach, okay? Now we matter in big games.
Yeah.
But with that being said, with the guy that you have to protect the quarterback, Coach, the first overall pick, everybody has to talk to you. Everybody has to talk to you. That is a premier player in this draft. What does a quarterback look like that plays in your system or for your team? Or what do you want them to look like? Because you inherited one in Will, you brought in another in Mason, and now is your opportunity, if you choose, to get your guy. So what does it look like?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I do want to do a good job of sort of dispelling the notion, too, that they have to fit a system.
Okay.
I do think that we got enough plays. We got enough ways of using players, and it's our job as a coaching staff. It's my job as the head coach and the one calling the plays, is that we have to do the best job possible of fitting the system to whatever talent we have. And sometimes you have to give and take based on where your spots are on offense. But at the end of the day, the system is secondary. It's always players first, and find the best possible players, and we'll fit them to the system. There's enough football plays out there for everybody, but that's going to be our job. And so when you're looking at quarterbacks, you just want the best one, and all of them have different skill sets. One might throw with more anticipation. One might throw with a little more quickness. There might be more decisive. There's all those things you're measuring, but at the end of the day, you want just the best player, period. Whichever one that is, whatever player that is, it's our job to fit them into whatever we want to do from a schematic standpoint, and then build it around that.
Does that type of stuff right there matter, though? If a player that's in this top five, let's go to top four, Travis, Shador, Cam, and Abdul, as it pertains to one having more attributes than deficiencies, do you make a pick based upon that too? Or do you say, okay, we need a quarterback, we'll take a quarterback? Or, hey, no, this rusher or this corner is better than both of those guys? Like, how do you get to the nuts and bolts of this?
I think there's always a weight to quarterbacks.
Okay.
Right? There's always something. If you're looking for a quarterback, that usually, because it's the most important position in sports, it's hard to pass one up if you think they're good enough.
Right.
If you think one of those other players is that much of a difference maker, then you have to be open to doing that as well, which at this point, those are all fantastic players, all four of them. Those are the guys that everyone's talking about, and rightfully so. They've earned that right. They're all really good players. And you have to evaluate who they are as players and then make the best decision. And if you think player A is better than player B, then you make that choice. But I do think that there's a lot of work to be done still on those spots.
Yeah.
And but I would always say that the quarterbacks are always going to be weighted a little bit because of the nature of the position.
With that also, I tell people most time the combine and pre-draft ain't about how much we can build you up. It's about, okay, how many knocks can we get on you? Mm-hmm. And one may be, okay, arm strength as it pertains to quarterback. One may, but in the same sense, they may have accuracy. What I want to ask is, what matters more? The fact that a guy can go 70 yards through the air, or the fact that he can hit a 10-yard out on a dime when it comes to what you're looking for.
I would say the things that I've always looked for is the decision-making, the timing, the accuracy. That to me, when you really look at quarterback play in the league, what do the really good ones do? They do those things consistently. And then you have the talent, when the true talent can take over, where when the scheme breaks down and they can make plays outside of structure. Those are how great are they at that, or what other strength do they have? Are they great in their pocket? Are they great when they're on the move? Can they do really wild things when they have a chance to get outside of the structure? But I think when you look at the core, when you say what is it that quarterbacks have to do well, and I always look at it this way, there's always a point in every game where you have to drop back and throw, and you have to do it well, and everyone knows you have to do it. The defense knows you're going to do it. The stadium, every fan in the stadium knows you're going to do it. And when those moments come, you have to be able to execute. And not everything can be off schedule. You have to be able to play with some timing. There has to be really strong decision making, and then you got to be able to throw accurately. Those things are kind of the core, and then there's little offshoots of what you're looking for. What else do they bring besides those things?
The intangibles.
Yeah.
It's nothing better than knowing that you have to have it and having a guy that can go get it. That is a luxury. And I don't think, as you talk about how hard it is to find a quarterback, a starter, a franchise guy, put him on the front of the stadium, that process is deep. Because you look at Patrick Mahomes, then you also look at Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. That is a big gap between athleticism and also perception of what they were supposed to do, too. And on the other side, you have a Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. It's hard, Coach, to find this guy. So have you had many very rested nights?
Yeah, I have. But I think you have to do a really good job of trusting what you see.
Okay.
You have to trust the people doing evaluations so you get the right opinions from all sides. And then you have to do your homework. You have to you have to work at it. And when you say there's no stone unturned in the process, that's part of it, is that you have to do your due diligence on all the players and all the positions. And quarterback, if just because there's one or two guys everyone talks about, that doesn't mean that you just disregard the rest of them. You have to do your work on all of those players to see where they all stack and how they fit. Because there is the Brock Purdy's and the Tom Brady's, the guys that weren't picked in the first round. So you do your homework on all of it, and you make sure you do your diligence, and you treat all of them with the same sort of respect that you would treat the guy that you think is going to be the top player versus the guy that's going to be the 7th round pick, because you just don't know where that's going to end up landing, and you have to make sure you feel good about the entirety of the class.
You mentioned having that type of guy, though, too. I've always been told from college coaches all the way through, whenever you're in a position of being a head coach and you got a quarterback, everybody need to know who that guy is. Mm-hmm. On college campuses, he walks in class, the professor, there's a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Does personality matter to you as it pertains to there are different variations of these guys. Shador, where you get his father, that travels with him. Cam, the exact same way, very boisterous. Even Jackson Dart, you mentioned the other guys, or Tyler Shuck, who said, I'm throwing and I'm going to show you what I'm worth.
Yep.
Does those personality traits matter to you and how they are outward in the media and how much you see of them?
Yeah, I think that's all part of when you talk about the nervous system, right? That's another component of it is the personality. How do they relate? What I care more about is what kind of teammate are they?
Okay.
That's what you're really trying to find. All these quarterbacks have a bravado. That's
a camera around them. Yeah.
That's just what that's just what it is. That's what the position is, and there's always eyes on you. So that part, I appreciate confidence. I like guys that do have confidence, but some of that stuff is it's the bravado part of it, and you try to break through that layer of what kind of teammate are they? Where do they really make their mark on the football team? So there's a lot of quarterbacks that have that outward bravado, but then you got to find out if it's really how they are in general.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not, and that's our job, is to find out where the line is, because I think what's most important when it comes to that particular part of it is the quarterback's confidence. Does it show up on the field and on the tape as opposed to what they say? I think that's an important part, but. There's an element of the makeup that you're trying to break through what is real and what isn't. But one thing I've always maintained this is that if that's who you are, be that
all the time.
If that's your personality, then be that. And that to me means more. Is that who you are on a day-to-day basis? Then be that. And we can all accept that. But it's the ones where it's not they don't match up.
Yeah.
That you got to.
That's the worst teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the worst teammate right there, to be honest with you. It's just like this guy's outward and everybody perceives him to be the great leader, and his teammates hate him. I've had guys like that. No, seriously.
No, that's a real thing.
No,
it's at all positions. It's not just a quarterback thing.
No, yeah, and don't let it be the quarterback. Like that's the reason I ask those questions, because a lot of with these guys that you can particularly pick, a lot comes with them, and the city being able to embrace that, but also you walk in, if you still stay and pick at the number one spot, that's a lot of eyes, and being able to handle that, I think, is a huge important part of this job.
Yeah, there's a quarterback that, that number one pick is a whole different world.
Yeah.
There's a whole set of expectation and pressure that comes with that. That's not just the 12th overall pick.
Yeah.
I look at it this way. You look at Bo Nix, right? Bo Nix gets drafted. Where did he get drafted?
I think
10, 11,
10,
12.
Yeah.
So that's way different than Caleb Williams at number one. And there's just a different set of expectations and pressures, and that's a lot of guys think they can handle that until they're in it, and so you have to try to determine the best you can. It's hard to know that is how do they handle that part of it too. So the best way to answer it is like consistency of personality is important, and be who you are, but be that all the time. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I think you can bring from that.
But Brian, the football character is where that is encased too, because that's got to be way up on the list.
Yeah.
How much do you love the game? How much do you love your teammates and the organization? How all that works?
I would say it's really difficult to play quarterback at a high level if that's not how you feel.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much goes into it, and it's such an unforgiving position, and it's such a hard position to prepare and play that if you don't have, the league humbles you quickly. You can get humbled very quickly, and you have to have that approach that you're going to do everything possible to be great at your job. And you have to love that process because it's hard enough as it is, and then you add the pressure of playing quarterback on top of it and performing. It's just a different quarterback's just different. It's a different set of pressures that apply to those guys, and you have to love playing football. Otherwise, it's too hard, man.
It's the hardest position in professional sports.
You have to have a real love for what it takes to play the position.
All I've heard is a lot of justification of why the quarterback get paid so much. We didn't come here for that. Right tackles are important too, okay? Left guards are important too.
There it is.
They are.
The cap keeps going up. That money keeps going up.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes,
did you ever think you were going to, when you finish playing, you'd see guards making 20 plus million?
No.
Guards.
No. We were the guard position. We're just talking ball was just, you're just a cover-up for the tackle. Or, hey, if you got a really good center, you're just a trinket to him. And now – with the emergence of a Jeff Simmons, of a Tavondre Sweater, Aaron Donald.
The interior pass rush.
They've realized that guy at left guard, that guy at right guard matters, man, a lot. And it's good to see it. I will say that, too. I'm a former Union guy, too. So I love seeing.
I think it's great. I love seeing guys get paid.
The Florida $1 million. Real quick, too, since I got you. I got to ask you about a guard in particular. You have the ability to shop in free agency or retain in-house. That's something that you guys have said too. Borgonzi has said that. Chad has said that. Also, you guys share that same sentiment. What's the idea of – I'll just ask you this because free agency is a part of it. How do you feel a guy like Dylan Radins has done over the year that you've seen him and his role that he's had to play?
I thought he really had, for the first time in his career, had an opportunity to just sort of sink his teeth into playing guard. And I thought as the year went on, he played better and better. I was really pleased with – I thought he was probably, of the guys up front, he's probably the most improved player. I mean, he's the one that played at the level that you were hoping to see, and he got better as the year went along. So, it'll be interesting to see what his market is. I mean, he's certainly a free agent, and those are things that'll come up here in the next couple of weeks. But as far as his performance and his improvement, I thought he really improved over the course of the season.
Definitely.
We know that free agency is around the corner as well. There's a lot of just conversation swirling around the Tennessee Titans between the first pick and the draft. You're being connected to every quarterback, both in the draft and in free agency that's ever existed.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of conversation right now around this team. How do you navigate all of that, all of the attention that's being put on this club and what needs to happen in the next weeks and months? Yeah,
we got a work cut out for us. We got a lot of work to do. We got to nail it too. We got to keep hitting in these player acquisition cycles in the draft and free agency. It's an important part if we want to keep getting our team better. And it's not lost on me. I'm very aware of it all. I understand the magnitude of the position we're in and why we're getting the attention we're getting. I'd prefer not to have that particular attention because again, I said it before. I don't like being first in the draft. That means that we weren't good enough this year, and so we got to keep getting better, both as coaches and players, and then we got to keep adding the right pieces. So at the end of the day, the attention is good for the general organization and for our. You want people to see what we're doing, and then you hope that we knock it out of the park, and people are excited about how we've went about the process. So that's the best way I can say it, is that it comes with the territory. Thankfully, I've been in this position before, and I've kind of seen how the ups and downs of the offseason when you're in this spot. So I have a little bit of feel how to navigate it. But yeah, there's a lot of eyes on us, and we have to do a good job with the position we've been given. We earned this position, unfortunately, but we have to do a great job with the opportunity.
Well, Brian Callahan, we know you are the busiest man in Indianapolis, so we're going to let you go. But thank you for taking some time with us.
Appreciate it,
Absolutely.
Coach.
Thank you.
Good sitting down. It's a good way to start the day.
Whether you're buying or selling tickets to a Titans game or any live event in Nashville, SeatGeek is the place to do it. SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of the Tennessee Titans, so Titans fans can fan. Home is the forefront of all we do. It's why we're so committed to caring for the places and spaces in which we work and live. Ashley, the official furniture provider of the Tennessee Titans. Little Caesars is the official pizza partner of your Tennessee Titans. Download the Little Caesars app and get your favorites delivered today. Delivery fees apply. Now, back to the OTP. Mike Borgonzi, we are so excited to have you here on the OTP from sunny Indianapolis. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
You are the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. You have the first pick in the NFL draft. Are you the most popular man at the Combine here?
I think so, for the way my phone's been ringing the last couple of weeks. But it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for the organization to have the first pick right now. And we've been working now for the past month with the staff. Evaluating the college and free agency right now. So it's certainly an exciting time, and getting to know the staff here over the last month, it has been great.
This is the place where a lot of those seeds are planted. So a lot of conversations are happening, not only about trades or player evaluations or things like that, but also about some free agency thing. How many of the seeds that are planted right now are going to turn into moves that we see in draft weekend and in free agency?
So we've gone through the process of evaluating these free agents for the past month here with the staff. And really, they give us that negotiation window here in a couple of weeks, and we'll have a chance to sit down and talk with some of the agents there at that point. But certainly there's a lot of buzz around here. You've worked in the league long enough, and a lot of the people that work in the league, so you start to pick up information. This is like an information gathering session here for everything, for the players and information and free agency. So you get it all here.
Is it hard to navigate being in charge of both fronts? This is your first time doing this.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky that I have a good staff right now. With Chad, who I've known for years, we made some new hires with Dave Ziegler and Reggie McKenzie, which have been a huge help to me. Both people have sat in that chair before. So they've really been a big help for me just navigating this first month and a half here on the job.
Mike, let's go back a minute when you were hired, and Chad had put out there, and it resonated with me very, very quickly. You're going to dark February.
Yeah.
Kind of fill us in. Let the OT people kind of. I've lived that in my career twice, so I know what you were talking about. Kind of give us an idea of what that was.
Well, it's early mornings and late nights, so you really don't see the daylight. So I mean, we were in there grinding from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the draft, and then after that we were meeting on free agents probably till about midnight. So you literally don't have a minute during the day, and if I did have a minute, I had to call my wife at that point. But you have all these people calling you, and you try to tell them, we're going dark right now. That's what we tell them. It's that dark phase. So we went through it for a few weeks. But you have to go through that process. I think it's the only way to do it, to really dive, in on the tape, have conversations with the scouts about it, and that's where you feel like it's a collaborative process. When you're in a room with everybody together and you're discussing these players, and you want to make the best decision for the Titans. So I think that's the only way I've done it, and I think you have to do it. You have to go through that process.
As I said, thank you for explaining that, because I've lived that twice in my career, and it's so time intensive. It's very time sensitive also. So you've got to plan out, and people hear this and say, yeah, well, we're there from 7 in the morning until midnight. Yeah, sure. That's the truth. I mean, you had food brought in too, right?
We did, yeah.
See?
Didn't even leave for food.
We didn't, no. And the cafeteria did a great job of providing us food throughout the meetings as well. And, of course, we were snacking all day.
That's
so
the only way to
I got
do
some
it.
workouts to catch up on.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, that enlightens the people a little bit about what really goes on when you get a hold of one of these things and you're brand new and trying to bring everybody together.
Mike, and now that you're back into the light of this, out of dark February, I want you to speak to us here on the excitement level that you have as first-time general manager and your confidence in the level of preparedness that you are in this next phase this week at the Combine here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm tremendously excited about being in this position here and the staff that I'm working with. So you go through the process, that's going through that dark process where you're watching the film the whole time. And now we're kind of out in the light here. So now we get to meet these players now here at this next process, get to sit down and interview them. For a lot of us, a lot of the juniors, that we had, they weren't at all-star games. So you get to sit down with them and interview them and answer any questions that you might have about them. And then it's an opportunity to get the coaches involved now with it too. So during those interviews, the coaches are sitting in on them and going through tape with them. They'll make a cut-up tape and they'll ask them questions. So we're trying to drill down on the football intelligence piece of it as well. So this is a one of the touch points here throughout the off season, but it's a big one because this is the first opportunity we really get to sit down and talk with these guys, talk football with them, talk about their background and any questions that we might have that came up in their background as well. And then we'll have this next month here, pro days, 30-day visits, potential private workouts. So really this is the start of it though.
Talk to us a little bit about when you're in these face-to-face meetings here, which is huge. I mean, it's huge for everybody. Do you use point-of-attack tapes? Do your coaches put these together? Do your scouting group put these together? How does that work? How much tape do you employ in that 18-minute segment? So
we wanted to get the coaches to put the tape together so they could ask the questions when they really drill down on it. So there'll be some good plays and there'll be some bad plays that maybe we have questions on. And so we gave them a list of players a few weeks ago when we first got here. They made a cut-up tape. So we're in those interviews. It's 18 minutes. So if we don't have any background information, any questions that we need answered, we hand it right over to the coaches to really drill down on some of the football intelligence and questions that they might have when they're watching the tape. It's a great opportunity. Even though it's 18 minutes, you can get good information out of those 18 minutes to really see if a player really has a foundation of the football knowledge that they really need to at the next level.
It makes me excited just listening to you talk about it. I'm already starting to miss doing that kind of stuff. I miss that. I can go sit in Lucas Oil all week and watch, but that stuff is what's important.
It gets your juices going, huh?
Well, and Mac, I think that's kind of what we're learning over time here is that, yes, the measurements and the physical evaluation is incredibly important. The medical is incredibly important. But the human interaction and getting to understand who these guys are, what makes them tick, and what they're seeing when they look at a play or a board or something like that, that's really the meat of what this week is able to provide, right?
Yes. I mean, the testing and the measurements and all that stuff, it's great. It really just validates what you try to see on film, really, to a standpoint. And then it could create some red flags. You may have to go back and watch a person if they didn't run a certain way or perform a drill a certain way. It kind of gives you that kind of red flag system. But really, the sit down, the hardest part about this process to me the hardest thing is to try to predict human behavior, right? Yeah. That's the hardest part about this process, any hiring cycle for any organization. So that's the important part here is we're really trying to get to know the player on a personal level and also how much football knowledge do they have as well.
Mike, when you're talking about it being a people business, dealing with people, there's no exact science. You've just pointed that out. But are there moments where, and it could be body language, could be something a prospect says, but how do you know when a guy has that football character you're looking for, a Titan that they absolutely love the game, they'll be a good teammate? How How does that work?
So that goes back years now. Our area scouts are going in, talking to their sources in the school and building a profile on this player, personal character, football character. And then once they get that profile together, we start to drill down on a little bit more. We might make phone calls to coaches at the school at that point. If I have a relationship with someone at a school, I'll call them to so it's really a team effort when we're trying to really figure out the player. But that process really starts years in advance when you're trying to build that profile of the player. And then you have these different touch points. This is the first one, 30-day visit. We might go out to a pro day. We might go out to a private workout. So all these different touch points is where we want to drill down. Does this person really love football? Are they a good person, and do they love the game of football? That's what we're trying to figure out.
When Coach Callahan brought in his coaching staff in 2024, one of the very first things that they did was they established blueprints by position of what a Titan looks like. Measurables. They had performance characteristics. They had all of these different things. Is that something that you've worked with him to refine a little bit, to say at each position, this is what a Tennessee Titan looks like?
So that's a good question. We actually, during our lunch break, we didn't have much time during these meetings. I would sit down with the staff, and every day was a different position. And we would go down the whole list and talk about the players that are currently on the team, but then also what they look for in each position. Like you just said, measurables. And we have a profile that we use in our scouting. And the most important thing is to make sure we're on the same page. Are these players fitting the system? Are we bringing in the right type of people that fit their system on offense, defense, special teams? So for the past 3 weeks, we've been meeting with coaches going over all that. Yeah.
Mike Borgonzi, we know that you're a busy man. You're the prettiest girl in the room right now. So we're going to let you go. And we know you have a lot of work ahead of you. So thank you so much for taking some time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
That's been great.
Yeah,
been great.
Thank you.
Hey Titans fans, with a Kroger Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and lots more. Go to Kroger.com/boost for details. Kroger, the official grocer of the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up. The OTP, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's game day for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to draw up a winning play for you. They've been covering Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. Now, back to the OTP. For Mike Borgonzi, head coach Brian Callahan, Rhett Bryan, Coach Mack, Ramon Foster, and me, Amy Wells, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the OTP.